what I mean to say is like the goal of any human life is actually happiness. But the people sometimes attach their ego thinking that they can find happiness by competing with other people. And that will never bring happiness.
No.
And really, to get happiness, you have to do other kinds of things, which is something that's a theme of my channel and will become a theme of our show, I suppose, which is like you have to have certain values. You have to serve other than yourself. You have to be grateful. You have to do something you love, the process of and the destination of. You can't.
Exactly.
You can't just like the destination. Oh, I want to be a movie star, but you hate acting. You can't be, I love to be a billionaire, but I hate the business I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
So
no, I think there's a lot of pleasure in giving,
yeah,
you know, and giving back to the fitness industry. I mean, I've been coaching now for 10 years and it's very gratifying, you know, if you have the right clients and you see them progress. Like I treat them all like my little brother and sister, even though some of them are 10 years, 20 years older. And, you know, you see their progress through life and it's very gratifying, especially considering I don't have kids. So you see people like progress, you know, whether that's emotionally or financially or romantically and of course the progression in the physique. But it's very gratifying to see that.
Yes, exactly.
You know? And then luckily I get to make money doing that as well. So I help others see them reach their goals and progress much further than the initial goals that they have. And I get to pay my bills that way.
This is actually very true. Coaching is one of the, unless you're doing coaching like the cookie cutter coaching with like 500 clients and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're doing what Steve does or what I do, which is with a limited amount of people and you're dealing with their whole life. So sometimes I'm like helping people build Tinder profiles. I'm helping people, you know, really. Yeah. I have, for example, my newest client, it doesn't even have an interest in physical health that much. His main interest is in, you know, finding happiness in his life. And this kind of stuff is beautiful because when you have the right client, when you have a client who doesn't really want to work properly and doesn't, you know, that kind of stuff, then it's not the same. But when you have somebody that really wants to work, you see their happiness, you see your effect on them. This is the most gratifying. This is more gratifying than making $1 million.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because you're positively contributing to somebody's life, and it gives you, even though, you know, it doesn't really do anything for your life besides a little bit of, you know, coaching fee. It's extremely gratifying to see, and I'm sure that will translate when we have kids at one point. Then when you put the same effort into a child and they grow up, and then hopefully they don't get to hate you by the time they're 18.
Hopefully
that's a trick, right? I mean, it's, you know, I had my struggles when I was a teenager. So that's like, you know, I think for you and me, we get to do a do-over, right? When we have kids. So, you know, considering our past, a lot of things we probably didn't agree with. And those things we don't want to translate into raising our own kids. So coaching is like, you know, babysitting adults sometime, but it's a good practice run for when you finally have kids. You know, you get to do all the things right and reach their goals. And then, I feel pretty confident by the time we do, you know, make the next step. But my wife is not ready, so I'm waiting.
That's very interesting. Two things. So the children thing, you know, it's so interesting you mentioned that. I just had a podcast with Jerry Ward today in which I was talking about that. And then I had a podcast with Ben Pakulski also that was related a little bit to that, because I was asking Ben, because he's a yogi and he breathes a lot. So I was asking when he has, no, I'm
going to do like little interjections, right?
Yeah. No, but really, I asked him, I was serious when I asked him, because he said he was complaining a lot about his father, who he is not getting along with, which by the way, lives with him in Florida, apparently. But anyway, the point, it sounded like they were, you know, anyway. So
maybe they just had an argument then.
Yeah. But the point is, he was complaining about his father as youth. And I'm very concerned that subconsciously, I may repeat some of the behaviors that I didn't like from my father by accident. Yeah. So this is like keeping me up at night.
I have the same thing.
So we're thinking about that. And, you know, it's important. I think that as long as we have the intention and we keep reminding ourselves of it, even if we catch the behavior, at least we can apologize right after and say, you know, I didn't mean to do this, or, you know what I mean? As long as you're conscious about it and you don't have pride. But it's quite a concern. The other thing is, you know, you're totally right. It's sort of like a practice run with some of the younger clients, especially because, for example, I have a client. The way I think of it is not like children; it's like a little brother, just like you said.
Yeah.
I actually have a little brother, and he's a white American, 100% white. He's a half brother. So I never knew him well. I mean, I met him when I was like 5 years old. And then I met him when I was 10 years old. Maybe I saw him for like a total of like 70 days or something in my life.
Yeah.
And I never saw him again.
Okay.
And I've always tried to reach out to him and give him guidance and stuff, but he hasn't been that receptive. And, you know, he's an adult now, you know, he's 25 or 26 or something like that. So I never got the chance to really have a proper little brother. And it's funny, the other day I was talking to literally my first client, who was 20 years old. And he was showing me a picture of his books. See, I taught him how to read, which is to underline, to annotate on the side your impressions. This is the best way to remember things, right? And
right. And you can, you know, go back and just read the cliffs, basically.
That too. But also I told him, like, even if you find something funny in the book or you can relate it to your life, write on the side like haha or similar to whatever, because it gets you more engaged, you know? So he sent me a picture of his book, which was tattooed basically with all these writings. I was so proud, you know. He's a consultation client. I never had him as a coaching client, but he bought maybe 20 consultations, and he doesn't need to anymore because he's on track, you know. But he sends me updates on WhatsApp, and he sent me the picture, and I said, you know, you're the little brother I never had. I'm so proud of you. I really am, you know. I was beaming with pride.
Right. No, I got several guys like this. They signed up like 18 and now they're 24.
Wow.
6 years. Yeah, that's a long time. You see them progress, you know, and you give them some business advice in the meantime and relationship advice, and, you know, all the dials are slowly going up. So they're leveling up in all aspects of life. It's very rewarding, you know. Yeah, I consider them all my little brother. I have a little brother, 2 little sisters, but, you know, living in Thailand, I'm not that close. So I call as much as I can. But, you know, living abroad, it's, you're not as close to your family as you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is actually brings us back to the theme of our podcast, which will be, you know, how to live your best life. I mean, the reason why we're talking about coaching in terms of giving advice in some ways, like, for example, I even mentioned Tinder, you know, like there's a way to optimize your Tinder use. And I think Tinder, you don't know, but I've only been with Lucy for almost 4 years. So before then I was on Tinder, very active and very successful. Okay. And I shouldn't be on. I'm
5-star rating.
But I'm not a good looking guy, but I was very successful because I learned how to use it. Right. And why I like Tinder, for example, is because it changed life. You know, now dating in person is a really big waste of time. Because every time you go up to a girl and talk to her, it takes you so long to realize if there's potential. Whereas on Tinder, you have, for example, when I closed my Tinder, I had 5,000 matches that I had not opened yet, which means you have a premium Tinder. You can see who swiped you and you didn't swipe them. So you go quickly through them. You send a couple of messages. You can quickly learn if the girl's intelligent, what values she has, quickly, and you can narrow it down and then really optimize. But we're not just talking about that. We're talking a lot of what Steve and I talk about is pharmacology. Steve being one of the foremost experts on PEDs, really. We can say that now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now that I've talked to a bunch of gurus closely and I received questions.
I get this all the time. You know, I signed up with Coach so-and-so and he doesn't know, he knows fuck all compared to you, Steve.
Yes.
You know, or maybe just people are blowing smoke up my ass. You know, you're turning me into a narcissist.
It's true. No, it's true. I think you and I and Derek know the most about PEDs probably in general. So. So and Steve is also interested in the mind and spirit and so on. So we've used, I think both me and Steve have always, I mean, you can tell me, Steve, your experience, but my experience was this. When I was young, it all started with steroids, actually. When I was young and I was 15, 16 years old, I was trying to get stronger, mainly because, and I mentioned this on the Dolce interview, mainly because I was getting into a lot of fights and I had a lot of Kung Fu and karate background, but this kata stuff with the arms like that, this was not working in fights. So
No, especially not in street fights. You know?
Yeah, no. So I was like, I need to get stronger because basically in 9th grade, the whole 12th grade was fighting with me. So they were much bigger than me. So I was like, I need to get stronger. So I started.
Were you an early student as well? Like a year young? Yeah,
a little bit young.
Man. I was born in September, so I was like a year younger or 9 months younger than everybody else. So, and I was short and skinny fat, and then getting bullied by all these guys that, you know, had to redo the class that were already a year older. So they were 2 years older. So it was like the little twink, you know, little kid in the class, and then everybody starts teasing you. It's like, okay, I got to get to the gym and build
What
this muscle armor.
what Steve is talking about is a real thing. If you look at the NFL, almost everybody, I'm talking over 80%, are born in the first 4 months of the year. There are not many people born in October, September, December. Why? Because they're the smallest people in class. They get picked last for the football teams. And over time, this causes them to not get into the NFL and not get into those kind of things. And so when you're younger in the class, you have actually a little bit of insecurity naturally. Because people have literally a year, especially at younger ages, they have a year above you of thinking.
That's such a big gap.
Huge gap.
At that age, it's a huge gap. But then you have to do your presentation and stand in front of the class. You know, you're almost peeing your pants.
Yes.
You're shaking, you know, you see the visually, you see your fucking little name, note page. And now it's not an issue at all. But it took years, you know, to get over. Yeah, it took years.
Actually, this is a good point. A lot of people think they should put their children in early in school. And sometimes maybe that's not the right idea. Yeah, maybe you want them.
A little bit later.
Exactly.
A little bit later, because I went through that whole process and it, you know, you know, I think that's where some of the social anxiety and then, you know, the insecurity came from. I mean, I'm basically completely over it now because I'm completely self-reliant and I live in a country that I absolutely enjoy. But, you know, in my earlier years, I think I was like late on a lot of things in life because it took me a while to kind of build my own character, you know, because to get over certain roadblocks.
I mean, you and I and Derek are all introverts. I mean, every time I have a podcast at night, I can't sleep because talking to people gets my, no matter what I'm doing, it gets me too excitable.
Yeah, no, I know.
But other than that, I mean, so how it happened for me was I started weightlifting. I got to like a 405 squat, 500 deadlift and stuff. And then I was realizing I'm not getting strong enough fast enough. So I said, there's this thing called steroids. Oh my God, I could change my biology. I said, I could become something else. I didn't use them yet. So I thought, like many people think, I'll become, you know, the biggest guy in the world. Like I'll be Rami or something like that. And so I thought like that. So I started studying them and using our introverted nerdiness, just probably Derek did the same thing with like originally with the pickup art and stuff like that. So we studied ways to improve our lives. And for me, it began with steroids and then it went all over the place. Like I was doing all kinds of things. I used minoxidil on my beard in 2005 before anyone knew.
To get a little bit more masculine.
Yeah, exactly. So I was on Thunder's Place, the penis enlargement form. Just to be clear, I don't have a small penis, but I was on that place because I wanted to be the best that I can be, right?
Yeah, you want to take it another 2 inches, you know. So
exactly.
I just want to know how much size did you gain over that protocol? Permanent size.